Hello, friends. Welcome back to this week's episode of We're Dealing, the podcast where life and faith get messy. My name is Dawn Marie, and joining me this week is my friend Ellie. Say hello, Ellie.
Hello, Ellie.
I love when you do that. Today, we're talking about something that sounds so simple, but is actually one of the hardest things that God ever asks us to do. And if we're honest, faith sounds beautiful in theory, but real life faith can feel very confusing, very painful, and sometimes it's deeply disappointing. So let's start this week with dealing with a question. Why can't you just let it go?
That is a loaded question.
It sure is.
Why can't I let it go? Probably because I'm not Elsa from Frozen.
I can't. This song is permeating in my brain right now. So letting go is hard because most of what we're asked to release is tied to our identity, right? Like even just that. You just said to me, because you're not
Elsa from Frozen.
There you go, right? So we are wrapped up in identity. We're wrapped up in our pain, our need for justice, or even control. When people struggle to let go, it's usually not just about the situation itself. It's about what the situation represents in our lives. That is deep. So here are some of the things that I believe people struggle with when they're faced with letting something go. And I'm going to read through them, and then we're going to talk about it. So the first one is letting go of control. One of the hardest things for people is surrendering control over the outcomes. People want to have control, and control is really just an illusion. 2 is letting go of someone who hurt you. Sometimes forgiveness can feel like we're actually letting someone off the hook. So why does holding on to anger sometimes feel safer than forgiveness? Letting go of the life you thought you would have. This one, you know that I have struggled with myself and is incredibly deep. It has a lot of grief attached to it. Sometimes what we need to release is the future that we actually imagined for ourselves. Number 4 is letting go of bitterness. Pain that isn't processed eventually becomes bitterness. Mm-hmm. Number 5 is letting go of shame. And this one is huge for so many people. Some people aren't holding on to what others did to them. They're holding on to what they actually did to themselves. Number 6 is letting go of identity tied to our pain. Sometimes people hold on to their wounds because it becomes part of their identity. And is it possible to unintentionally build your identity around what hurt you? Number 7, letting go of the need for justice. And this one is incredibly difficult for so many people because people want accountability. They want acknowledgement. They want fairness. And sometimes closure never comes. I can attest to that. Mm-hmm. Can you release your need for justice and trust God to handle it? And the last one is letting go of fear. Fear whispers, if you let go, you'll lose everything. If you trust again, you'll get hurt again. What if the thing you're holding on to is blocking the thing that God wants to give you? And sometimes the reason we can't receive what God has for us isn't because He isn't giving it to us. It's because our hands are still full of the past. If we're honest, sometimes we hold on because letting go is scary. It's actually terrifying. So today we're going to wrestle with some honest questions about surrender, pain, control, forgiveness, and trust. So, Ellie, I want to ask you the loaded question. Mm-hmm. Out of all of the 8 struggles that I mentioned, what resonates with you the most? And then what have you seen from the people maybe in your circle or that you've experienced? What do you think resonates with them the most? Start with you.
Well, I know what resonates with me is forgiveness. And it's something that I've been working on and I continue to work on. And in order to do that, I had to do a couple of things. I had to look inward, of course, and ask myself those hard questions like, what does forgiveness look like? And there was a time that I was very, very confused because to me, forgiveness felt like I swept everything that they did to me under the carpet and we continued a relationship and we skedaddled down the road and we braided each other's hair. Mm-hmm. And that's why forgiveness for me felt so overwhelming, and it felt like it needed time and it needed distance and it needed all of these variables to make it look or be okay so I could forgive. So the first thing that I had to realize was that forgiveness doesn't always equal reconciliation.
Correct.
And I always struggled with, you have to forgive them for yourself. And so there was so much that went into forgiveness because it felt like a tall order. It felt like a big task. And there's so much that's wrapped up into that concept of forgiveness. So the first thing that I had to realize was, okay, forgiveness doesn't have to equal reconciliation. Forgiveness doesn't even mean you ever have to trust that person again.
Or talk to them again.
Correct.
Even. Yeah.
So I think for me, that is where I had to begin. Then the realization of, you do have to forgive for yourself, because what unforgiveness was doing for me, and if I could be honest, some days still do, is it eats away at you. It can eat away at your health. It can eat away at your mental health for sure. Here's what else it does. It eats away at your ability to trust. Mm-hmm. And it also ultimately eats away at your walk with the Lord.
Yeah.
So the forgiveness definitely resonates with me. Control absolutely resonates with me. You know, the unknown is a scary place to operate from. Yeah. And, you know, being a single mom and everybody has a reason why they can, you know, say that they hold on to control. And the reality is, Dawn, you are correct. Control is an illusion. Mm-hmm. And even holding on to offenses is, even in that, it gives you the illusion of control. And there's, you know, there is no control. God is sovereign. God is almighty. And, you know, somebody said something to me once a long time ago, and I actually spoke to a friend about this week. We talked about it. Reality doesn't care if you like it or not. It's here and it's always going to come.
That's right.
Where I think I've seen people that I know struggle with is fear. You know, in my circle, there's a lot of moms that have young adults that are driving on the road, making life choices that, you know, you can see that they may or may not be making the best of choices. And you have to kind of let it play out, because you have to realize that the good Lord has a testimony for them too. And we can't block that testimony, but we're their mom. You know, we've made the mistakes, we've gained the wisdom, and our instinct is to protect. But there you go again. There's the control and the surrender and the trust that God is sovereign, God is almighty. God has a testimony and a story for them, and you have to get out of his way. And you can't even get out of his way for yourself. Imagine how much more difficult it would be for your children. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I live sometimes. But the forgiveness is, you know, something that I'm working through, and I understand why it's necessary.
I want to go back to something that you said about that it affects your health. And I just want to read something that I just looked up as you were speaking, but it says unforgiveness significantly impacts physical and mental health by keeping your body in a chronic state of stress. Holding on to anger, resentment, and bitterness causes elevated heart rate and blood pressure, your weakened immune system, and cortisone stress levels are high. So in a weakened immune system, resentment keeps the body in a fight or flight mode, which can inhibit the immune system's ability to fight off illness. I mean, I don't know if you've ever read the book, and I'm still trying to get through the whole thing because it's a little bit of a tough read, but it's The Body Keeps the Score.
No.
And it's about like stress and trauma and the things that you've been through and how your body really does keep score of that. And it's proven medically that when you don't forgive or when you're, living in bitterness, that it actually affects you. It's why people say it's like drinking the poison and right. You drink the poison and you expect the other person to die. It's not going to happen, right? You're actually slowly killing yourself. And it is a slow death because every day it's like you're getting up and your mind is doing that, again, mental gymnastics, and you're stressing out and you're replaying the hurts and the things.
The rumination of it.
The things that you could have done. I remember you said something to me last week, though, that one of the reasons that you struggle with the idea of, because we talked about this and I was like, oh, it's not about, the other person. It's about releasing it and giving it to God and just letting it go. Right. And
you wanted me to be Elsa again, didn't you?
You don't ever have to have a relationship with that person again if you, should so choose to, not to. We don't have to be in toxic relationships if it's not healthy for us, and or if we need to take a season, right? I know with my dad, I had many times where we took some seasons off because I had to work through some things, right? And some of them were longer than others. But you had mentioned to me in that conversation that the reason that you struggled was because God forgives us and he doesn't say, oh, well, I forgive you, but I can't stay in a relationship.
I know. And there you go. Isn't that true, though, Dawn?
Yeah, it is. But,
the Bible tells us, forgive others as you want your Father to forgive you, right?
Right.
So,
but it also says don't be unequally yoked, which means we don't have to do life with those people that are not healthy for us.
And that helps. Right. That helps.
So, yes, God forgives us, and but we're his children.
Right.
Right. And so he created us, right? So I know that that's a hard concept, but it also does, again, say, right, that we're not to be equally yoked. And we talked about this last time. Yoked is like you're tied with that person. You're going the same direction.
Right.
If you're not, it's okay to not be in relationship with them, but you don't have to be bitter about it. It's just like, hey, we're not good for each other and we're just going to go in different directions.
Right.
Yeah, unforgiveness is, and I think a lot of people struggle even more so with the idea of forgiving themselves, for the things that they've done through their lives. They carry the guilt and the shame and, I mean.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm about to share something and I'm going to share it with the listeners and you don't even know this. And I think I may have tapped on this and the years that I lived in darkness and my Catholic background, every Good Friday, I put myself through it. What is that? I take myself to the tool shed. I'm learning this new expression. Am I butchering it?
I have no idea.
Okay, thank you, because I don't know either. I've heard it, and I'm
you
trying
went to the tool shed.
I think I took myself to the tool shed, so I'm going to go with that.
What did you do at the tool shed?
But every Good Friday.
Did you saw your fingers off?
I give myself an emotional beating. You want to talk about reviewing everything that I did in my mind? That for that particular day, I have amnesia to there is no condemnation in Christ and you are born again and you are a new creation and the old is gone and all that wonderful truth that I know. It is a day that I condemn myself. I relive my shame. I relive my guilt. I beg God for forgiveness. I say I'm sorry a million times. I really give myself an emotional beating every Good Friday. This year is the first year that I don't have any plans to do that.
The first year ever?
Since I've come into the Lord.
Wow.
When I was living in darkness, I didn't do any of that on Good Friday.
Right.
But yes, this is the first year that I said, I am not doing this. I am forgiven. I am redeemed. I am made whole. I am worthy. The past is gone. And I do not need to take myself on this emotional roller coaster on Good Friday. Mm-hmm. It's the guilt, what was getting to me, and it would keep me in that emotional place for the entire day was, I am not worthy. Look at what Jesus did today, and look how I lived in darkness for it.
But the reason that he did it is because we're not worthy.
And there you go. And there was the rub.
You actually, and I used to do this myself, and I mean, we all do it to some extent, but I know what that's like to beat yourself up for the things that you've done, or feel that guilt and that shame, and also even my early years of being a Christian, I mean, I didn't have it all together. I mean, I still don't have it all together, but I mean, I was really trying to walk that thing out. You talk about walking out your salvation with fear and trembling. I mean, I was, because I was still living in the world, and I still had, I was a single mom, and I was trying to figure things out, and I was still making all the mistakes, and I was choosing the wrong relationships for all the wrong reasons, and, all the things, because tangibly, right, I needed to do what I needed to do for myself, because I was still living in survival mode.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And so, even that, going through those years of trying to forgive and, yourself, but then you come to realize, it's actually spitting in Jesus's face and saying hey, that wasn't good enough. That was good enough for everybody else, but it's not good enough for me.
Right. Right.
Ouch.
Yeah. And there's a peace that came over me. I'm no longer doing that to myself. And notice I say I'm no longer doing that to myself. Mm-hmm. I'm owning that. Mm-hmm. That's not the enemy. That is me truly knowing, premeditated that was how I was going to spend my Good Friday. It was planned. My beating was planned.
We talk about unforgiveness, and unforgiveness usually leads to this bitterness root, right? Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about something that many people struggle with, which is bitterness, because eventually it becomes, you become a bitter person. It starts off as you don't forgive them, but then as it gets deeper and deeper and deeper into you, and it says in Hebrews 12:15, see to it that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Mm-hmm. And I love that, because it's giving us that warning that it's not even just about you. When you become bitter, think about all the things and all the people that you hurt because of your bitterness. Mm-hmm. You don't trust. You can't have relationships. You're, easily offended.
And when I hear the word bitterness, what resonates with me, and you said it best, Dawn, anger is one thing, but you know that it's kind of crossed over that line to bitterness when you see that person actually doing well or succeeding or finding that amazing job or that amazing relationship, and you find yourself going, you gotta be kidding me. Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me right now? I thought you said, Lord, that, the wicked weren't going to prosper, and that you saw what they did to me, and I'm here and I'm still in the same struggle financially, or I'm still a single mom and I haven't met, the husband that you have for me yet, and, or my kids are acting out, or I just lost my job, and yet this person did this to me, and it seems like the wicked are prospering, Lord. Are you listening? Are you there? So that's how you're crossing that line into from anger to true bitterness that it's rooted in you, and not having that ability almost to step back and say, God has a purpose and a plan for all of us. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. Amen.
Gonna
right?
say the same thing.
Right?
Yeah.
The rain falls on the just and the unjust. And trusting in God's plan. And trusting that he is our vindicator. He sees it. He didn't miss it. If he's allowing it, there's a purpose in it.
I don't even think it's sometimes people that have hurt you that you feel that way about. I know for me, if I'm being honest, I mean, I've just seen people that aren't living right, and I'm thinking, I'm trying to get my life together, and I'm trying to do right, and I'm trying to live for the Lord. And look at that person. They're prospering. And that even has become bitterness in me over the years. I mean, it's like you almost feel like, what the heck am I, like, why am I trying so hard? Why am I trying to do the right thing? It doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
Do you even see me? Do you see what they're doing? And do you see how I'm trying? And you're still struggling and you're still going through it. And so it becomes bitterness, and then you become jealous and resentful and all of these things. And so,
Dawn, if I could say something that may help you, that kind of made me turn the corner on it. For people that didn't hurt me, I can't wait to get to the day where I can feel this way towards the people that have hurt me. And, but for other people, I was told once, the devil doesn't attack those he already has. So when I would see people not living right or doing the wrong thing or in my mind, that's what helped that particular bitterness. Where I struggle is the ones that hurt me. I have to put that in my head that if they're that same evil person and they haven't repented and come to the Lord and tried to change or offer an apology, which most times we never get the apology we deserve. And that in itself is hard to accept, But it always helped me to try to realize, okay, the devil doesn't attack those that he has.
I don't know if that's true, though.
Really?
I feel like...
Come on, that's what gets me through.
No, but we have these things, these cliches that make us feel better.
Yes.
But I work with homeless people. I work with people who are not living right, not doing the right thing. And I work with victims of sexual trauma and all of the things. And I mean, you can't tell me the devil's not attacking them. That's not a true statement. Now, I will say, I think the devil comes harder for them. I think we live in a world where the devil is just running rampant for He's after everybody.
Oh, yes.
Now, I do think that when you turn a corner and you're trying to get I've seen it happen. Man, the devil's coming full force. And some of my girls will say, like, I don't understand what's happening. And I'm like, oh, honey, you're
elevating.
Right. Like, he's mad that you've given your life to the Lord and you're trying now to do the right thing. And
you're elevating.
He's literally trying to pull you back into the pit of hell. Isn't that crazy?
Just think about that.
Oh, it's insane. But that is what is happening. He's literally trying to pull you back. But it doesn't say in the Bible anywhere that, I mean, I'm sorry, Al, to burst your bubble, but...
Don't burst it. Don't you do it.
Literally, it says he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. It doesn't say just believers.
Right.
He's coming. He is mad.
Yep.
Right. That we exist. Right. Even and I've heard this, and there's truth in this. He knows people's potential. Right. So let's just say that there's someone that he knows has potential in them. He's seen glimpses. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he can devour. Those are the truths in the Bible. It doesn't say he only attacks the people who are living for the Lord. I think he comes for everybody. I think we experience things in a different way, because if he can what he's trying to do is get to our identity, right? Not trust God, right? He can't really get you back into hell, but he can make you live a miserable life until you get to heaven. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. At first, I see it all over your face. You're like, what just happened?
Well, that's just not going to happen.
Now, I think I've thought that too. Like, okay, well, maybe, I mean, I think it makes us feel better. It makes us feel better to say, oh, you know, they're just living great because the devil's not coming after them. But I am living such a good and righteous life. And so the devil's coming for me. That just makes us feel better.
Well, you know, and I'm gonna go there with the movie clip. I'm doing it.
Okay.
I already started with Elsa with
Yeah.
Frozen. I started with a Broadway production. I'm going in for the movie.
Okay.
Do you remember that movie God's Not Dead?
Yeah, I actually never saw it, believe it or not.
Okay, well there's a scene, and those of you that've seen this hopefully can remember this scene, and it's a son that goes to visit his mom,
Okay.
and she has dementia, and he was not living right, and he was sitting in her room and said to her, "I don't understand about this God that you serve. I don't understand about this faith that you have. You're the nicest person I know. You're the kindest person I know. You've lived your life the right way. I'm a horrible person. I'm a bad husband. I'm a bad dad," or whatever he was saying. I worship money. I do all that, but I have it all, and here you are with dementia. I have a beautiful wife. I have kids. I have money. I have position. I have power. I have it all. And my life is great, and you're here with dementia. And I was waiting. I could not wait for her to answer him. That was the moment for me. And she said something along the lines, and everybody can go watch that scene for themselves. And she stared out into kind of like nowhere, and she said, "Sometimes the devil lets you continue to live a life like that because he doesn't want you to bring you to God. Your sin is like a jail cell. The doors are open and you can walk through it anytime you want, but he wants to keep you in sin until, wait for it, Dawn, until one day those doors close and it's too late."
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that ideology for me came, like, okay, he's going to let you go, and he's going to let you self-destruct, and he's going to let you keep going and going and going, because that's where he wants you to be. Because one day those jail cells doors are going to close and it's too late.
Well, it does talk about that in the Bible, that eventually he's going to keep God is going to keep trying to get your attention, and then eventually he's going to turn you over to your own desires.
Is that not the scariest thing right there?
Yeah, I mean, but it talks about also that, like, you know, we're like dogs that return to our vomit. It's true. Like, I think there's also this misconception that God doesn't ever cause pain in the world, right? Well, it's not God. It's no, it's not always the devil.
That's right.
Some of it is our choices, right? We have free will, and so there are consequences to our choices, which we don't want to face up to. It's the truth.
We want to justify
I do
that.
something stupid, and now I have to pay the consequences, and now I'm trying to blame God or the devil.
And it's a spiritual attack.
Right. It's just me and my stupidity.
Right.
Right. Or like there were times in the Bible where God, you know, he executed his wrath on people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it talks about in the Bible how God, you know, he uses who he wants for his purposes.
That's right.
He can harden someone's heart, which, I told you earlier today, like, I'm so thankful.
Thank you, Lord.
That I know the Lord, and I wasn't one of the ones who he hardened my heart. Now there's all this talk of, well, did he know that the person was going to harden their heart anyway? And so he just used them for evil. I don't know. We'll figure that all out when we get to heaven, right? But he does. It says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord, right? So like we're talking about some of this let it go things. Well, sometimes there's times in your life where, and I think this is where we come to the real, how do we let it go? All the things, though.
I love that.
How do we let it go? We let it go because we trust God. We trust his plan and his purposes. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you hope in a future. I am a masterpiece created to do good works, which God has already planned in advance for me, right? When you start to know those truths, you're like, you know what? God's got it all. It doesn't matter if somebody tries to slander me, if they hurt me, if they get on my bus, they get off the bus, they don't give me closure, angry, because we've talked about this. We have to get to a place in forgiveness where we can see that person as God's child.
Right.
And see the hurt that they experience to make them the person that then hurt you.
Right.
And when you start to ask God, break my heart for what breaks yours, and get me to that place where I can see that person as you see them. I mean, the only reason that I can do the job that I do on a daily basis, when people tell me to go pound sand, or they're yelling in my face, or they're upset, I can see that child, and it's only through God that I can sometimes maintain. But and it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it does, right? And
Sure.
so, I see people through the way God sees them. I see that child that was hurt and traumatized. And then you have to see for yourself, the person who hurt me, man, what got them to that point? And maybe it wasn't abuse as a child, or maybe it wasn't your parent, maybe it was a relationship.
Right.
But what happened to scare them to, or where did we get to this place where they felt like they had to hurt me?
Or what didn't they let go?
Right.
What didn't they let go?
Correct.
And we talked about this, and I'm going to share this with the listeners. I had gone into therapy for a few reasons, but one of them was specifically for the unforgiveness and the bitterness and the way it was affecting me. And those cortisol levels are real. They are no joke. And, the lack of sleep and the effect on your physical and mental health is absolutely, truly 100% real. And the therapist had suggested that I write a letter to this person, and it was a close family member. The exercise was to write a letter a half hour a day. And then I would bring the letter in, we would discuss it, and then continue on with it. And I truly don't remember what we were going to do at the end of the letter. All I know is it wasn't going to be mailed. I don't know if it was going to be burned, or I couldn't tell you. So at that time, I was really trying to understand forgiveness. And again, going back to that, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how it's supposed to feel. I don't know if I can do this. And I sat down, and the very first letter that I wrote, I did just that, Dawn, just what you said. What broke in her? What didn't you let go? What trauma did you endure? What circumstances made you this way? And so my letter was more, I understand. And I surprised myself, because I could just picture myself, somebody saying, you have the opportunity to write this letter to this person. And all I could think is, if you did, this is what you made me feel like, and how dare you, and may God, all of it. And I didn't go there with it. And it was so surprising to me. But what I will tell you I did, and I should have said this from the beginning. When I was sitting in my prayer chair, I first spoke to God before I wrote the letter. I said, God, less of me and more of you. And that's what came on the paper. Did I expect to go in that direction? No, I wanted to go in the direction that I just explained to you. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I brought the letter in, the therapist read through it, and looked right at me and said, wow, I didn't think this was the direction we were going to go. I didn't think this is how this was going to look as we unpacked this. And I did give her a disclaimer. I said, you may get me on a random Tuesday where it may look different. But for now, this is where my heart, this is the direction that I'm going. So it's so true. Unpack them. Unpack them. I'm not going to say that that always helps all the time, every day. You know, that concept of hurt people. I get it.
Well, I think the idea is that, like, we think we forgive and then we never feel the effects of it. And that's not true. There are things, and I've said this before, that will forever, they just alter you. Now, there will come a day where, you know, as you walk through, you get up every day and you say, I mean, I have to imagine that letter was so freeing in so many ways, and also, like, beautiful that God gave you that perspective, because we're all God, you know, we're all God's creation. We're not all God's children, right? But we're all God's creation, and the intent is that He has great plans for us. And sometimes, somewhere, you know, something happens to a person. No one is born. We're not born to be abusers or narcissists or, you know, evil people. We're not born that way. Something in society causes us to be that way. And I try to think, like, man, how sad for that person. What have they experienced? Now, do I do that all the time when the moment happens, when somebody pops off or somebody hurts you or the experience right? No, of course not. But as you process through that, right, and as you take it to God over and over and over again, and sometimes you wrote that letter and God gave you that perspective, and sometimes it's a daily reminder of going back. I don't know what you did with that letter, but even if you burned it, but going back to remembering that letter and that moment when God showed you that thing, right, and saying, okay, God, I forgive. Okay, God, I forgive. And as you do that, I think the pain becomes less and less and less as you walk through it. The experience is still there. I mean, we're humans. Unless we have amnesia, we're going to get amnesia, we're going to get hypnotized. The experience is still there. Right. But I do think the pain lessens over time as you continually forgive.
I was going to say that's a key part of it. And you got to give time the time it needs.
Right.
Too.
But you also every day have to get up. You can't go back to the bitter root.
Right. Can't go back to that vomit.
Right. You have to every day remember again what God showed you when you wrote that letter.
That's right.
And then remember every day to say, God, I forgive. God, I forgive. God, I forgive. Because as you do it, you're releasing it. You're making a conscious choice.
That's right.
I think we think that forgiveness is a feeling.
No, it's an act of faith.
We're all wrapped up in ourselves and our feelings. Right. It's an act of faith. It's a surrender.
That's right.
I forgive. I forgive. I forgive. And I'll take it a step further. And I learned this a long time ago. Pray for that person.
Yes.
You know, really pray for them.
That's right.
Not pray like, hey, God, open their eyes and show them what they did wrong.
Right.
I'm saying, God, bless their life. You know, give them more than they could ever ask, think, or imagine. You know, like blow their socks off to Lord. You know, show them who you are in their lives. Like, I'm talking prayers of blessings over somebody. Pray that prayer. And as you pray that prayer, and I know that worked for me in a certain situation, then it becomes easier and easier and easier.
And you know what else helped me too, Dawn? You know that, well, they don't deserve that, or they don't deserve to be forgiven.
But you do.
That's right. So how many things, let's break that down. How many things did I deserve that the good Lord didn't give to me? And how many things do other people don't deserve or do deserve? If it was a deserve game, we'd all be in trouble.
Sure.
So that was something that had to kind of flip in my mind, flip the script, so to speak. How many things that I deserve, and God's grace and mercy and favor was new every day. Why? That's just for me and not for anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know about you, but I have plenty of days where I act like a donkey.
By the way, let's not talk about vomit anymore if we're going to go for frozen yogurt after this.
Oh, Lord. So before we close today, I want to pose one question to you, Ellie, and to our listeners, and to myself. If God asked you to release the thing you fear losing the most, right? So sometimes, I mean, and those things I read in the beginning, they are real. Like sometimes we get so wrapped up in our identity being the pain. And so if we let go of the pain, then who are we, right? And so letting go of the pain, like think about if you see somebody who's bitter, they're just negative all the time and they're gossipy and they're just, and that becomes who they are. What happens if you let go of the thing that God is asking you to, right? Would you trust him enough to do it? So let that sit for a moment. And then I'm going to end with something that captures what this struggle often feels like. And this is something that you sent to me this week. Do you have it on your phone?
I don't have it on my phone. You want to give me a minute? I'll play catch up real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I love it. Let's read it out together.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm putting you on the spot.
That's right. I love it. Hold on. Let me get you.
So I want you to imagine this conversation with God. And I don't know.
You be God.
I don't know about you, but there are times where I literally have some conversations with God and people are like, you talk to God like that? And
He can handle it.
I sure do.
He can handle it.
So we're going to end with something that captures what the struggle feels like. So we're going to imagine this conversation with God. Okay, we're going to go. Ready? Ellie, you need to let go.
Of what?
Ellie, you know what?
God, I'm trying.
No, you think you're trying. You're thinking about trying, but you're not actually trying. There is a difference, Ellie.
But God, it's hard.
I know it's hard. That's why I'm asking you to trust me with it instead of carrying it yourself.
But God, what if I let go and nothing happens?
What if you let go and everything happens? You're so focused on the risk of the release that you're not seeing the risk of holding on.
What does that look like, God? Which is what?
You're blocking what I'm trying to give you. Your hands are full of the wrong things. I need you to drop it so I can put the right things in your hands, Ellie.
Okay. How?
Stop trying to figure it out. Just do it. Release it. Trust me to catch what matters and let the rest fall. Maybe that's the question we all need to ask ourselves today. What am I still holding on to that God is asking me to release? And maybe the breakthrough you've been praying for isn't waiting on more effort. Maybe it's waiting on the surrender. So as we wrap up today, we just want to thank you for spending this time with us. If this conversation resonated with you in any way, if it challenged you, encouraged you, or maybe even made you wrestle with something in your own life, we'd love for you to help us get this message out. Make sure that you like our podcast, make sure you subscribe, and I want you to share this podcast with someone who might need to hear it today. Mm-hmm. You never know who might be holding on to something heavy and just need a reminder that they don't have to carry it alone. And if you're enjoying We're Dealing, where life and faith get messy, leave us a review and follow along so you never miss an episode. Thank you for being here today. And remember, faith is not always easy. It's not clean and simple. Sometimes it's messy, and that's okay, because here on We're Dealing, life and faith are messy. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.